Do you ever catch yourself saying, English is just crazy? Maybe your students come across a tricky word and you tell them, you just have to memorize that one, or this is the part you have to know by heart. But deep down, you know it's still confusing. Here's the truth. English isn't random. It's a wonderfully complex system, and once you understand how that system works, through sound, structure, and meaning, everything changes. That's what Sarah, Paul, and I teach inside Mastering Morphology. This isn't another curriculum. It's deep teacher knowledge inside a practical, comprehensive course that finally shows you how words really work. No more exceptions, no more gimmicks or patching holes with memorization or phonics alone. It's time to go beyond sound it out and give your students the framework they need to truly understand words. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start teaching with confidence, join us inside Mastering Morphology. Enrollment is open now, so we invite you to click the link in the show notes to get started. You're listening to episode 73 of Literacy in Color. Welcome to the Literacy in Color podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Sullivan, a science of reading advocate with over a decade of experience as a reading interventionist and literacy coach. I'm passionate about making evidence-based instruction both effective and engaging. If you're interested in captivating our learners on reading fluently and understanding language, or as I like to call it, keeping it colorful, then you've found the right place. Each week, we'll explore intriguing lit bits and practical strategies around the science of reading and structured literacy to help you be colorful and teach colorfully. Are you ready to bring literacy to life? Let's color outside the lines and make an impact together. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Literacy in Color. If you're listening to this episode in real time, you're probably getting ready to gear up for a winter break, or maybe you're already on break. Either way, this week we're keeping things really light. Think of this episode as a little literacy nugget you can enjoy while you're cozying up with some hot chocolate, wrapping gifts, or honestly, just taking a little breather. So today's episode is for those of you who enjoy a little word nerdy goodness, just a tiny little holiday word study moment. Today, we're going to take a look at 3 holiday words we see and hear everywhere this time of year: Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. We'll explore where these words come from, what their spellings can tell us, and how English carries fingerprints of other languages inside it, which is always one of my favorite reminders that spelling is about meaning and history, not just about sounds. So let's start with Christmas. At first glance, this looks like a simple word, but historically, it began as a compound. So this word comes from Old English, Christus Masse, which literally means Christ's Mass. Old English loved their compounds. So right away, we have those 2 meaningful parts, Christ and MAS. So the word Christ actually comes from the Greek Christos, meaning the anointed one. And here's where things get really interesting for us as literacy teachers. When we see the spelling CH, we often default to thinking, oh, that says ch, but that's not actually how English works. Sure, CH can say ch, like in chip and chop or choose, but depending on the word origin, CH can also say k, as in Christmas, or even sh, as in chef. Those would be in words borrowed from French. So in Christ, that CH is saying k. This is not an exception to the rule. It's a feature of word origin. And this word ultimately comes from Greek. And when Greek words entered English, often through Latin, the Greek letter chi, we see that represented as an X, was transliterated as CH, even though it didn't represent the English ch sound. So in ancient Greek, that sound was actually an aspirated k, like a breathy k. And we see the same pattern in other English words like chaos, chorus, and even school. Or maybe some of our bigger words like technology, chemistry, chronological. CH representing the K sound is all over the place. So Christmas gives us a beautiful example of how English spelling preserves etymology. And here's also a fun little side note. When we see the shorthand of Merry Xmas, that X is actually a representation of the Greek letter chi. So chi was used as shorthand for Christ, the first letter in Christos. So essentially, it's like an abbreviation. Now, when we consider the MAS in Christmas, the word Mass comes from the late Latin missa, referring to the Christian Eucharistic service. So essentially, Christmas can be understood as the Mass for Christ. And over time, of course, the holiday has taken on a broader cultural meaning, celebrations of generosity, goodwill, gathering, light, even for people who don't observe it religiously. But the word itself still carries that original meaning. And one more fun little nugget here, that Latin word missa connects to the Latin verb mittere, meaning to send, which gives us those familiar twin bases MIT and MISS. And we see these all over the place in English in words like admit, admission, submit, submission, dismiss, dismissal, and so on. So I just love when one base opens the door to an entire family like that. And just to be clear, the MAS in Christmas wouldn't be considered a morphological relative to MIT and MISS because they don't share a spelling, but they would be considered historical relatives. Next up, we're going to look at Hanukkah. And yes, we need to talk about the spelling because I feel like I'm always Googling how to spell this word whenever it comes up. So you'll see this word written lots of ways. Maybe starting with an H, maybe starting with a CH, maybe there's a double K, maybe just a single K. And that variation is not sloppiness. It's, again, because of transliteration. Hanukkah comes from a Hebrew word, Hanuk, meaning dedication. So it refers to the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in that 2nd century BCE by the Maccabees. So why do we see variation between CH versus H? The first Hebrew letter in this word is chet. And this letter represents a guttural sound produced in the back of the throat, a sound that does not exist in English. And because English doesn't have a perfect match, writers have tried different solutions over time. They've tried the CH, which is influenced by German and Yiddish spelling traditions, where CH is representing a similar guttural sound in that back of the throat. And they've also tried an H, which is a simpler, more accessible approximation for English speakers, because as we know, that H is a breathy sound. So when you see Hanukkah spelt with a CH versus an H, you're seeing two different attempts to represent that same Hebrew sound using an English alphabet. And then we get to the K. So to double or not to double, that is the question, right? Because you may also notice a double K in some of the spellings. And this is also reflecting Hebrew pronunciation rules, where a dot called a dagesh can indicate a stronger consonant sound. So English doesn't mark that systematically. So again, the variation in spelling happens. So this is a great reminder for students that English spelling can get complicated when words come from other languages. And that variation doesn't mean it's wrong. And finally, let's take a quick look at the word Kwanzaa. Unlike the other two words, Kwanzaa is a more modern word. It was coined just in 1966 by Dr. Karenga. So the word comes from a Swahili phrase, matunda ya Kwanzaa, meaning first fruits. And that phrase connects Kwanzaa to traditional African harvest celebrations. And interestingly, in that phrase, Kwanzaa is spelled Kwanza. So Dr. Karenga intentionally added an extra A at the end of Kwanzaa to create 7 letters in the word rather than 6, symbolizing the 7 guiding principles of Kwanzaa. So this is a word where spelling is symbolic by design. Kwanzaa, with 2 A's at the end, reminds us that words don't just evolve. Sometimes they're intentionally constructed to carry meaning, values, and even cultural identity, which is a beautiful thing. So what do all 3 of these words, Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, all have in common? They remind us that English is a layered language shaped by many cultural influences. Spelling often reflects history and meaning, not just sound. And variations in spelling usually tell a story. They're not mistakes. And this is the heart of word study. Slowing down, getting curious, and asking why. And honestly, this kind of thinking is just as powerful for teachers as it is for students. So if you enjoyed these cozy little word study nuggets, you'd absolutely love being a part of Logos Live, mine and Sarah Paul's monthly morphology membership within Logos Literacy Academy. So inside Logos Live, we host monthly coaching calls where we tackle your biggest word study questions and dig deeper into morphology, English spelling, and how that all ties into phonology, vocabulary, and even grammar. And the best part is when you enroll in any one of our courses, you get 2 full years of free access to Logos Live as a bonus. In the meantime, I encourage you to keep being curious, keep loving words deeply, and remember that English spelling always makes sense when we look beyond the surface. So happy holidays, my friends. I hope you have a great one. Thank you so much for tuning into Literacy in Color. I hope today's episode left you feeling both inspired and equipped with something new to add to your teaching toolkit. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would truly mean so much to me if you'd leave a 5-star review. It helps other educators find the show and join our colorful community. And don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. For more tips, tools, and resources, be sure to check out the links in the show notes at michelleandthecolorfulclassroom.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Until then, be colorful and teach colorfully.